What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good With Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today I want to talk to you about paying the price for your goals, your ambitions, the things that you want to achieve in life. Specifically, I want to talk about how you're either going to pay the price now or you're going to pay the price later. Human beings do a terrible job of looking into the future and thinking about how their life will be different if they don't pursue the things that they're going to pursue. They very much pay attention to now and how hard things are and how challenging things are and all the obstacles they have to overcome, instead of think about how my life might turn out, or more likely will turn out, if I don't do the things I'm going to do. So that's what I want to talk about today, so that we can get ourselves thinking differently about things and keep ourselves moving in the direction that we want to go. But before we get started, if you've been listening to this or you've been watching these episodes and you've been getting value, make sure that you share the show also with somebody who maybe they're chirping a lot about all the goals that they want to achieve, all the dreams that they have, all the ambitions that they have, but they're not doing anything about it. Or maybe they've started a bunch of things and they've quit a bunch of things and they can't keep themselves going. Make sure you share this episode with them so that they can also keep themselves going and achieve the things that they want and have a nice, fulfilled life. That's what the Good Wolf Project is about, is us constantly moving toward a better version of ourselves, focusing on getting 1% better every day. That's the fucking challenge. That's the thing that we have to do. If we don't keep that focus, we will slide back. Personal development, as the saying goes, is like a shower. If you go days without a shower, people will eventually stop hanging out with you. They will not want to be around you because you'll smell funny. So you take a shower regularly, hopefully on a weekly basis, daily basis for most people, you take a shower. Personal development is the same way. If you don't focus on yourself, if you don't focus on building yourself and closing your gaps and closing your deficits, then it washes away. You'll eventually move back to your old habits. Whatever phase you are in life, you will develop habits over that time that has gotten you to where you are. And our goal is to try and build ourselves into the type of person, aka build new habits into our lives and into ourselves that move us to the person that we want to be, that can achieve the things that we want in life. Okay? That's going to be a big part of what we talk about today. So, what's the difference between paying now and paying later? Paying now, I think most people understand, and that's why most people quit on the goals that they want. We have an ambition to get in shape, get a six-pack, lose 50 pounds, whatever. And we start doing it, and we realize that exercise is hard. Or we realize that our schedule changes, and figuring things out on how to change our schedule is challenging. Or we start a new diet, and we realize we have to overcome temptations, and we have to do all these things. If we want to start a business, we get started, but then we realize that maybe we're a little scared to sell things to people, or maybe we have to start spending money on a website or on product or on new employees. And we get to that point where we're like, well, I don't know. I'm kind of intimidated to spend the money. So no matter what your goal is, you're going to run into some sort of resource deficit, be that internal, your own habits that are blocking you in some way, shape, or form, or external, be that time or money or people. And when you hit that deficit, that's when people get challenged. That's when they go, damn, I don't really know what to do here. And that's why most people quit, because the price that you have to pay is overcoming that deficit. It's overcoming that resource deficit. Everybody, every human being that pursues anything is just constantly overcoming these resource deficits that they have. And that's why most people quit. But that's the price that you have to pay. And it's important in the beginning, as you pursue things, to understand the full price, or at least your closest guesstimate of what the full price is, so that you more likely will continue to pursue it. On the other hand, down the road, you will also eventually pay the price if you decide not to go after getting in shape, not to go after building your own business, not to go after building wealth, not to go after building an empowering relationship with your spouse. If you decide not to do those things because they take effort, they take time, they take money, They take other people. If you decide not to do those things, you'll pay the price down the road. As an example, when I owned a fitness studio for 10 years. And when I owned the fitness studio, the majority of our demographic were people between the age of 45 and 60. And most of those people would come in, and one of the things that they would say during our initial conversation is, I should have started this earlier. I should have done this earlier. Because now I'm at a point where I'm paying for neglecting my body. I'm paying for not paying attention to myself over the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever it had been. That is one example of paying the price down the road, but we don't think about down the road. We think about today. We think about only how we feel today and the effort that we put in today and the challenges we have to overcome today. But in your health, if you don't pay attention to your health now, you will pay down the road. You'll pay in disease, decrepitude, and you'll pay in finances. Down the road, you'll be on more medications, you'll have more surgeries, you'll have more doctor's appointments. So eventually, you're going to get into your pocket and you're going to get into your health span and lifespan when it comes to your health, if you don't pay the price now. When it comes to your finances, building a business or something along those lines, if you don't pay the price now, you don't decide to put effort into building a business, put effort into building your finances, put effort into building wealth. If you don't decide to do the hard work to do that, in 10 or 20 years, you'll be broke, like most people are whenever they get to that point. You'll be a penny pincher. You'll be unhappy because you don't have the things that you want in life. Society tells you, don't want things, don't worry about things, which to a huge extent is most definitely true. Being attached to things will definitely create unhappiness and unfulfillment in your life, because if that thing goes away, then that means that you have part of your happiness has gone away. But there's a difference between being attached to things and having things in your life that bring you some joy. So having things is okay. Having things is fine. Going on nice adventures, good vacations, going and staying at nice hotels, spoiling yourself and your spouse, all of that is great. And if that's something that you want to do, it's something that you should pursue. Because in 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, when you haven't done it and you're still sitting on your couch, snacking on potato chips at night, watching TV, feeling bad about yourself, it's not going to be a good feeling. It's not going to be a good feeling. And then you'll end up like many other people when they get to retirement age. Oh, now I'm just going to retire. I had all these dreams to want to pursue things, but I don't have any fucking money to go do it. So I guess I'm just going to sit here and die, which is what most people do. So that is the price, the idea of paying the price down the road. But why do we do that? Because human beings move toward pleasure and move away from pain. And if we want all this pleasure in the future, because we have more money, because we have more health, we want to be able to go and be independent. We want to be able to live a good life. If we want this pleasure in the future, why can't we do the work today? Because like I said, in the moment, we have pain to overcome. We have challenge to overcome. And there are, of course, many excuses that we come up with and many mental blocks that we have to overcome. But I want to talk about 3 basic excuses, basic reasons why we decide not to pay the price today, and break those down a little bit so that we can understand what's actually happening. So that we can understand that we can pay the price if we choose to, and that we are foregoing some pain today for pleasure today, instead of recognizing if we go ahead and attack our pain today, we can have pleasure tomorrow in the long run and ongoing and moving forward. And the pain that you're actually trying to overcome is not pain at all. It's only pain in the moment because it takes some figuring. That's all that it does. That's all it does. All the challenges you're trying to avoid and trying to sidestep, all of those things are only challenges in the moment because it takes some figuring and some convincing. Once you do them, you recognize what they build in you. And it doesn't become challenge anymore. It's just something that builds you. So the first thing that people do, or the first reason why people don't pay the price today, is because they say, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do what I want. I'm going to take a quick drink. Look at my notes real quick. Got my notes down here on the screen. Help me out. Excuse me. All right, so we convince ourselves that we don't have the time to do what we want to do. This was a big thing that I heard from people when it came to exercise, especially. I just don't have the time to do it. Well, there's a law, I want to say Parkinson's law, that says a task will take up the amount of time allotted to it. And there's two ways to think about that. Number one is if you're with your current schedule and your current tasks that you're doing, most people just do things. They have things that they need completed, and then they just do them. They don't set a time frame aside to achieve them. So when you don't allocate a certain amount of time to complete a thing, then it will expand into the rest of your time. For instance, if you think about, so my parents are retired, and their big thing most days is going out to lunch. And that takes time. They take time to get ready. They take time to get out the door. Once they're out the door and they're there, they take their time at lunch. Once they're finished, maybe they go walk around for a little bit. And then they take their time getting to the car, and then they get back. It could be, who knows, a 3-hour ordeal, give or take, just from getting ready to getting back. There is no time frame for them to get that done. And everyone has a thing like that, many things for the most part in their life, where they don't compress the time in which they're going to get things done. Okay? So those things expand into the rest of your day. And it just takes time because you're just doing the thing until it's done instead of urgently working on it to get it done in a time frame. So that's one idea. On the other side, if I don't allot the time for this thing that I want to accomplish, then it will not be there. So when most people start exercising, it's more of I'm going to do it if I have the time. If I don't have the time, then I'm not going to do it. And when that is the case, then you're not going to do it. It's that simple. A lot of people do that with starting businesses. A lot of people do that with growing businesses. A lot of people do that with saving money, with other things. You don't allot the thing as what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do, and it's a non-negotiable. People will do it for doctor's appointments. People will do it for massage appointments. People will do it for other stupid things that may or may not actually add any value to their life. But a lot of people won't do it for exercise. Exercise is I'll make it happen if I can make it happen, but if I can't make it happen, then I won't make it happen. So think about how you're doing that in your own life, how you are either letting things expand and take up more time than they need to. I'm 100% certain that that's happening somewhere, and some things could just be deleted altogether and you wouldn't notice at all. Or how you are not deciding that this is the time that I'm going to accomplish this task or work on this task. If you do one of those two things, or if you do both of them, then you will have the time. You will have the time. Well, Jerry, it's going to take me a long time to achieve this goal, though, and I just thinking about all the time it's going to take, to lose 50 pounds. I mean, who knows, that could take a year to grow a business. That takes years to grow a business. It takes years to build wealth. It takes years to do this, that, and the other thing. Sure. So let's say you allocate the time, but now you're like, you can't convince yourself to keep going because it's just going to take so much time. Well, do you plan on living that amount of time? Do you plan on continuing to live on this earth during that time? I'm going to assume that the answer is yes. If the answer is yes, then why would you not spend the time doing the thing so that you can achieve the goal anyway? Most people are like, well, it's just going to take so much time, so I might as well just continue to be miserable because this is going to take time to actually see come to fruition. Okay. Rationality left, walked out the door with that idea. If you plan on being here, you might as well spend the time working toward things that matter. You get it? So figure that out, figure out your time allotment, and then recognize that, the time's going to go by no matter what you're doing, no matter if you're sitting, twiddling your thumbs, no matter if you're sitting on the couch eating potato chips, no matter if you're scrolling on your phone, no matter if you're doing whatever, the time will pass relentlessly, as a matter of fact. And in that relentless passing, you get to decide what to do. You might as well work towards your goal. You might as well do the work. So then the second thing that we convince ourselves of is that this thing's going to take too much effort. It's going to take a lot of effort to achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve. Effort comes in many different forms and fashions. It can come in physical effort and it can come in mental effort. Most people are completely scared of both. If something is physically challenging, it scares the shit out of them. If something is mentally challenging, it scares the double shit out of them. So when it comes to those things, recognizing that it is in the decision to step away from the effort that is the habit and that builds that resistance to effort, recognizing that will help you then potentially move toward and overcoming those things that are challenging. When you have the habit of moving away from things that are hard, then you will continue that habit. When you go to think about overcoming a schedule change in your life and figuring out where to put your workout now, and you say, oh, well, I'm not going to think about it, I'm just going to skip it, that's going to be your habit. If you go, oh, I can figure this out, and then you take the time to figure it out, that's going to be your habit. It's just what you're going to do. So either make the habit of overcoming those things or accept that you're not going to overcome them. The question is, do you want to go ahead and figure out how to overcome things today and put effort into things and challenge yourself a little bit, or 10, 15, 20 years down the road, are you going to be okay regretting that you didn't? Because there was a book that came out long time ago. I forget the name of the book, but it was a study where this lady went and asked people on their deathbed the biggest things that they regretted. And of course, it was all the things that we're talking about. Not putting more effort into my life, not taking more risks, not challenging myself more, not going after the things that I think were important, not, trying to build a business, not focusing on my health. It's all the things that we're fucking talking about. So are you okay with that? With getting to that point in your life and regretting not putting in the effort today, not going through some level of pain today and discomfort today, so that in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, you can feel good about what you have done, feel good about what you have accomplished. It's a different way to think about things. And if you are going to do things differently, you have to choose to do that. Which leads us to the last thing. And the last thing is that we tell ourselves that we have to wait for the right time. We tell ourselves that now's not the time to start something because, I know it's going to take all of this effort and things are crazy at work. Now is not the time to start something because the kids have soccer practice. Now is not the time to start something because I have all these extra projects going on. Now is not the time to start something because whatever, I just made a big purchase and going and starting something doesn't make any sense. And so we create this list of reasons of why now is not the time. And then next year comes around and we have an ambition to start and we come up with this plan, but then all of a sudden something happens and we go, oh, well, I guess now is not the time to start. Now is not the time to go because schedules have changed, because kids have soccer practice, because insert whatever, and continue cycle. There's another law called Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law simply states that anything that can happen will happen. That's on the quote good and quote bad side. Anything that can happen will happen. If you reflect on your life, I'm sure you can think of times where things were calm, and going well. And of course, you can think of times when things were chaotic and felt crazy. And if you really thought about it, you would recognize that it's not a perfect cycle. It's not like, hey, every 3 months things are going to change and that's the cycle, but there's a cycle to it. Expansion leads to contraction, leads to expansion, leads to contraction, leads to expansion. If that is the case, that anything that can happen will happen, and things expand and contract at not a regular interval, but at intervals, that's your life, and you'll have to figure the shit out. So, any time is a good time. Because things will always happen. Schedules will always change. Projects will always pop up. Kids will always have soccer practice that rolls around the same time every year. And then another sport the next season. Like all of these things will always happen. It's not going to change. There will be a smooth time. But if you say now's not the right time, I'll start at the right time, and then that time happens to come and you happen to start, that means that when that time goes away, because it will, because anything that can happen will happen, then you will stop. And then you'll start and stop again, and eventually you'll convince yourself that you just can't make it fit or you can't make it work because life just can't figure itself out. But the truth of the matter is, you're just not putting in the mental effort to figure the shit out and to keep going. And this is what it means to pay the price today. Paying the price today means, number one, figuring out your time. Where am I spending my time? How am I wasting time? What are the tasks that are expanding into the rest of my day, that are taking up more time than they need to, that I can either contract or delete altogether? Please think about the things you can delete. Social media, by God, is one of them. For fuck's sake, get rid of and reduce the amount of time you spend on your phone and watching TV. If you did those two things alone, you'll go, holy shit, I got all the time. Look at all this time. If you did those two things alone, I'll add video games in there too. So if you did those things, you'll recognize the time that you have. And then you go, okay, now I'm going to slot this thing in here. I'm going to spend this amount of time on these days to do this task so that I can start to move toward my goal. If you do that, you'll recognize, yeah, I do have the time. I actually can control my time. I can. You can. Everybody can do it. Doesn't mean you can control it totally, but certainly there are times in the day that you can control and times throughout the week that you can control. If you decide that you want to challenge yourself and start to overcome things, put in more effort, then that will become your habit. If you quit convincing yourself that things are going to be too hard, if things are going to, it's going to take too much effort, I'm going to be challenged, that all of that is just you trying to not look stupid, trying to not look dumb, trying to not feel bad about yourself because you're doing something that's hard, because you're doing something that's challenging. But it is overcoming those challenges that creates the habit of continuing to overcome challenges. When you do that, you become the kind of person who can do that. And then recognize that that things are going to happen. Life will never be in sync for you. Life will never be smooth always, all the time. The right time will not just randomly show up and then stay around. Things will always happen, and set the expectation that things will always happen. And believe in yourself that when they do happen, not if, when they do happen, that you'll figure it out. And if you can start to believe in yourself that when things happen, I can figure it out and I can make it work, then you'll do it. And that's what we want to build toward, is overcoming those things. Okay? The last thing that we can do to start to urge ourselves and motivate ourselves and build urgency to achieving the fucking things in life that we want to achieve and paying the price that we need to pay starting today is asking a proactive question. Okay, let's call this proactive payment analysis. Ask yourself simply, is my 80-year-old self okay with living with regret, with living with disease, with living in financial instability, with being unhappy, with being dissatisfied with its life at that point? Is my 80-year-old self okay with that? If you have not done a exercise like this where you're thinking into the future and what your future self might think, this might be hard. It might be challenging because it takes some practice. But if you take the time to do this and think about what you might feel in the future and what you might think in the future and what your future self might say to you, you might just kick yourself in the ass and decide to do something about it. Because if your future self is sitting there in a chair and can't get out of the chair on their own, under their own willpower, and needs help getting out of a chair and going to the bathroom and getting a shower and cleaning shit off of them, and lives in a nursing home where they get maybe 2 square meals a day, if that's you in 80 years because you have decided to forego the pain of overcoming all of these things we've talked about, realize you're making a choice to be okay with that, to be okay with that person. But that's up to you. So ask yourself that question, think about it purposefully, and see how differently you feel. And then go do. Start to take action. Start to do things. And keep reminding yourself that this is just the price I have to pay. This is the price I have to pay to get what I want. This is the price I have to pay to keep going. This is the price I have to pay to live on this earth, to be here. Because the odds of you being here are like 1 in 10 trillion. If those are the odds, then you better pay a fucking price for being here. Because the odds are against you being here. The truth of the matter. The odds are against you being on this earth. But you are here. So do fulfill that potential. Somebody else could have been here instead of you. How about that? Don't let that person down. Fulfill that potential and do it. Appreciate you guys for listening to me babble. Again, thanks so much. Remember to share this also with somebody who continues to waver and just not make a decision and not take action. Until next time.